guys, so it's pretty clear already from the title that this is a book haul. I'm going to share with you the books I have recently acquired, whether I have purchased them, been gifted them, or been sent them for review by publishers. I will let you know as I go through, but without further ado, let's have a look at the books. I'm going to start with the first two books, which are gifts. So the first one was a little gift from my mum, and it's just like a fun sort of like comedic affirmation book, and that is Be a Unicorn and Live Life on the Bright Side by Sarah Ford. And this is just a lovely little book of illustrations on one side with a little like saying on the other side. So it's like, unicorn loved to feel the rain on his cheeks. I mean, it's over his bottom. We've also got like, there we go, we've got, it might have been a weed, but unicorn thought it was beautiful. So it's just like cute little things like that, and she sort of bought that to cheer me up, and she was like, when you're feeling down, just have a wee look at the unicorn and see if he makes you feel better. I mean, obviously books like this can't cure all ailments of the mind, but they are certainly sweet and like upbeat, so that was a really kind little gift. And then from my friend Jen, I was given this poetry collection that she very kindly bought for me, and that is Let Me Tell You This by Nadine Aisha Jassat. And Jen said she was very highly recommended this one by a bookseller in a shop, and it's also recommended and compared to Jackie Kay, who is a poet that I like, so she thought I might be interested in this. Also, can we just talk about how gorgeous this cover is? The gold foiling, yes. It's published by 404 Inc, and it says on the back that it is a vital exploration of racism, gender-based violence, and the sustaining restorative bonds between women, told with searing precision and intelligent lyricism. Yes to all of that. I'm so excited for this. It's definitely going to be the next poetry collection I pick up. Oh, my mistake actually. I was gifted 3 books because my mum actually paid for this book as well. We saw it for £3 in FOP when she was visiting London, and she was like, I'll get that for you. So I was like, thanks mum. And that is Someone Like Me by M.R. Carey. This is a hefty hardback, but I was so pleased to see it for such an inexpensive price because M.R. Carey is the author of The Girl with All the Gifts, which is like a post-apocalyptic zombie novel, but like incredibly written, so imaginative, so just wonderful. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. I didn't know going into it that it was a zombie book. That might have put me off, but don't let it put you off if you haven't read it yet, because honestly it sort of goes beyond all of your sort of expectations of that genre. And this is one of his more recent books, and I believe it is a thriller. I'm not terribly sure what the story is because I did just pick it up based on the author, but from the blurb it seems like we have a woman who is like a loving mother and wife, but there's another side to her, and apparently her alter ego takes control and the consequences are devastating, so something dark and scary is going to happen. I don't know if there's a paranormal twist on this. I don't know if all of his books have sort of science fiction or paranormal elements like The Girl with All the Gifts, but regardless, I'm happy with a thriller or something paranormal. Both sound good to me. Then I've only actually bought myself 2 books recently, and one I'm going to save to the end because I've got 3 books on a similar topic that I'm going to talk about together. So the next book which I bought myself was The Smoke Thief by Shanna Abe. This is historical romance of the year according to Romantic Times Book Club. It's also a fantasy book, so it's a historical fantasy romance, and it looks like there might be dragons based on this cover, so tick tick tick. It's set in a historical northern England. I'm not actually sure what kind of period it is, and it follows Clarissa Rue Hawthorne, who is a daring jewel thief. So cool. But she's caught by this Marquis of Langford who she thinks is going to turn her over, but then it turns out that he wants to join forces with her in order to, you know, do something he's trying to do, and they team up. So I'm really intrigued. I don't actually know how much fantasy there is in this one, or if it's like light on the fantasy, but I don't really care. It sounds good regardless. And now I'm going to go through the books I was sent by the publishers. So the first one I am so excited for. It is an ARC copy of The To-Do List by Amy Jones. So when I did some temp work at the Pool magazine, I worked with Amy Jones, and she is the most lovely person, and she was sort of like working on the release of her book then, and it sounded so exciting that I was so pleased to be offered a copy to review. The subheading is "And Other Debacles, Lessons in Life, Love and Losing My Mind." I'm there for that. It's basically all about being a 20 or 30-year-old something woman in today's society. It says, are you a woman? Do you make to-do lists to stop you losing your mind? Have you ever cried in the toilets at work? Yep. I had a meltdown in the supermarket. Yep. Or going off the rails at a hen party. No, but only because I've never been to a hen party. So I'm just really excited to read this. Like I said, I think Amy is wonderful, and I think this is going to be a really like witty, intelligent, fun, just poignant read. I then have a book I definitely know is a thriller, and that is The Last Widow by Karen Slaughter. It says kidnapped, broken, imprisoned. I have never read any Karen Slaughter yet. I swear she is the thriller writer that I hear the most about, the most praise for. I know particularly Chapter Stacks loves her, completely trust her opinions, so I have been meaning to check out one of her books for ages. So when I was offered a proof copy of her latest work, of course I jumped to the chance, and I'm really excited to finally read my first Karen Slaughter. I believe this is about a mother that's abducted and a child that goes missing, and sort of the background to that. I'm just going to read it whatever it is. Then continuing with the proofs, we have The Library of the Unwritten by A.G. Hackworth. A novel from Hell's Library, so I don't know if this is the first in a series, but it says join the library or raise hell, and this sounds brilliant. This is set in a section of hell or the underworld where all of the unfinished books are stored. So say you're a writer or you're an author or just like somebody dabbling in writing, and you start a novel but never finish it, it goes in this library in hell, and it's about the librarian and a book that starts to like come to life, which is like a danger to society. It sounds so weird, wacky, fantastical, wonderful, creepy, all of those things. We then have The Stormcrow by Kaelin Josephson. This is another fantasy novel, and this one has been compared to Eragon on the back, which you know I'm here for because Eragon's one of my favourite fantasy books. However, they don't fly dragons in this series, they fly giant magical crows. So cool. Not come across anything like that before. It follows a fallen princess as she ignites a rebellion to bring back the magical elemental crows that were taken from her people. I believe there's forced marriage, it explores depression and mental health, women in power and fantasy worlds, and I'm here for it all. Then two books that are slightly different but a lot of fun and were sent to me by Carlton Books, and they are these Sherlock Holmes tomes. The first one is Solving Yourself Mysteries, the Sherlock Holmes casebook. Puzzle your way through 10 baffling new cases. If you haven't been watching my channel for a while, you might not know, but I love Sherlock Holmes. I've been an addict to all things Sherlock Holmes for, you know, much longer than a decade. Oh my goodness, probably like 15 years if not more actually. I've loved Sherlock Holmes forever. Carlton Books does a lot of Sherlock Holmes sort of like books and games, and I thought these looked like so much fun when they offered to send them to me. This one is one that you like sit down, you can either do it by yourself or do it with friends, and you go through a new mystery that's been made up for this book and have to try and solve it from the clues that have been provided. So it's like an activity book, which I think is a lot of fun. It's nice to see one that like sort of adults can do, not just children. And then we have The World of Sherlock Holmes, The Facts and Fiction Behind the World's Greatest Detective by Martin Fido. This book is so up my street. I love non-fiction about Sherlock Holmes, and I've got a few sort of coffee table books just full of interesting information about different aspects of Sherlock Holmes and its reception in popular culture, and that's basically just what this is. More awesome facts along that end. Lots of images, and I imagine like background to the stories. Oh look, it's Morse. Okay, I'm intrigued. I like Morse. I want to read more. But yeah, I love these books. I love reading about Sherlock Holmes. I love reading Sherlock Holmes, so I was really pleased to be sent these. And then, like I mentioned, I have 3 more books. One I bought myself and 2 I was sent by the publishers, but I wanted to leave them till the end because they're all about sexual violence. So if you don't want to hear about these books, if you would find it upsetting to hear me talk about these books, then please feel free to click off now. Thank you for watching so far. But yeah, I'm going to mention these 3 books, and the reason I am reading and have requested these books is because my PhD thesis deals with sexual violence. It deals with sexual violence in 4th century BC Athens, and something I'm trying to make an effort to do at the moment is read more modern literature on sexual violence, both modern literature on historical sexual violence that isn't antiquity, but also modern instances of sexual violence, because I think a lot of texts on sexual violence from the sort of 20th century, even the early 2000s and now actually, is very outdated, and it perpetuates a lot of really bad, incorrect stereotypes, even academic literature. And I think it's really important as a historian to look at just sort of like modern examples of these things as well for like an anthropological perspective. Some of it may or may not be applicable, but I think it makes you think about your research in a different way. I think it introduces you to the theory behind sexual violence and why sexual violence is part of society, and because of that, that's why I wanted to read all these books. The first one I'm actually almost finished reading, and it's the one I bought myself, and that's Rape, A History from 1860 to the Present by Joanna Burke. So like I mentioned, this one is obviously much later than the period of history I'm studying, but what Joanna Burke is doing in this book is very much looking at the way that rape and rapists were handled by society, the incarceration system, and psychologists throughout this sort of like century and a half. And I've actually found the discussion in here really, really interesting and useful for my studies. I will say this one is particularly heavily focused on rapists and the history of the study of why people rape. So like psychologists trying to come up with reasons for why rape happens, with the motivation behind it, and that of course is very relevant to me. Whereas the other two books I was sent by their publishers, are much more from the perspective of the victims or the survivors of sexual violence. So we have What We Talk About When We Talk About Rape by Sophia Abdullahi. The author herself was one of the first Indian rape survivors to speak out publicly about her experience, which is obviously incredibly difficult to do. It's incredibly difficult to do even when there are years and years of precedents of people coming forward and talking about their sexual violence, let alone being in a country where people don't talk about it. So this is all about her experience and attitudes that she faced because of what happened to her and how it affected her, and I think it's a very personal book. And then we have a collection of essays on the topic called Not That Bad, Dispatches from Rape Culture, edited by Roxane Gay. I read Bad Feminist a few years ago, and in that, which is a collection of essays entirely by Roxane Gay does discuss her experience with sexual violence and rape in her childhood and past. And in this volume she's brought together so many women to explore their experiences with what is an incredibly pervasive problem throughout society. I say women, sorry, I think there are some men included in here too, so although the majority are women, it is from various different people's experiences and perspectives, so I am planning on reading those, and I believe they will help me conduct my research in a sensitive way. So those are all the books that I have recently acquired. I would love to hear from you if you have read or are interested in reading any of these books, but until next time, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys!